now. Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? So just really quickly, wanted to introduce the topic here. Me and my two colleagues, Kim and Tejas, are going to take you through. Pretty interesting story. We started on a journey with Accenture about a little over a year ago, I guess, last summer of 2020, to put our life insurance policies and our annuity policies and disability policies on the ALIP platform. And we quickly moved it to our Amazon cloud, and I think Kim will talk through some of that, and Tejas will talk through the Guardian strategy of what we went to Amazon for and why we're there. But in short, that's a quick introduction. We'll do who they are, right? We'll talk about who Guardian is, talk about the partnership between Accenture, and then the technology transformation. And then I'll close it up with some of the key business values that we're looking for from this platform in this transformation. So as I said, myself, I'm Nicholas Volpe. I'm with Guardian. Partnering with me is Kim Gully from Accenture, and Tejas Patel, who's the chief architect at Guardian with me. So who is Guardian? I think most people don't know what Guardian is. They mostly think it's a newspaper or a bus company in New York. But it's actually a life insurance company by primary. But we kind of have a purpose statement that says we are interested in lifelong well-being for health, wealth, across the board. 29 million customers in our core group businesses and our life insurance and annuities and individual products. $6.7 billion in operating income. So what do we do? Like I said, we have a core group business which sells to employers. Our core market is under 500. And what we sell there is dental, short-term disability, long-term disability, leave management, vision, supplemental health products. And our individual side, which is where the Accenture partnership actually is, and where we're really working closely with them, is core whole life insurance, term insurance, variable annuities, fixed annuities, Park Avenue Securities, which is our broker-dealer arm within the insurance company, and our disability products. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Kim, who's going to talk you through a little bit about who Accenture is and the journey.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate that. Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for inviting me. I had the opportunity to share this with you. It has been a fun journey, and one I'm proud to be pleased with, not only with Guardian, with AWS. But let me introduce you a little bit about Accenture. For those that don't know, we're one of the largest global providers of software solutions. To get to that size and capacity, there's a couple of key things. I'd like to think one of them is our integrity. I think that's really important. We have exciting programs like our diversity programs and everything that make it very attractive for high quality staff and everything. Obviously, well, I'd like to think obviously, given our size, we deliver. We have the ability to deliver, and it must be with some value. Otherwise, again, we wouldn't be here. So it's pretty exciting stuff. But that ability to deliver, that doesn't work unless you've got great partners. Obviously, one of our great partners is AWS, and we've always treated our clients like Guardian as a partner rather than a vendor-carrier relationship, and I think that's key to some of the success here, and very important. The other thing we like is cloud. We're very big on cloud. In fact, we're so big on cloud, last year we started an initiative called Cloud First. Accenture backed it up with a committed investment of $3 billion over the coming years, with a sole purpose task to make us one of the best when it comes to cloud. And I'm talking about putting a group of dedicated people globally that are working to build out the innovation, enhancements, client engagements, new solutions, client aspects to get us to where we need to be and to help us get our clients there. We believe so passionately in this cloud concept. So that's Accenture in a nutshell. Probably not the best salesman. I'm a techie by heart. Just for background, I look after the technology. I'm the CTO for life and annuity of insurance, and particularly our platform, ALIP. So if we look at a bit of background with cloud, if we look at pre-COVID, there was a $2 billion spend up until X, and then after that, we saw a climb rate. This is a report based on assumptions. If you overlay it with the actual reality, and it was expedited with the pandemic, it grew a lot more. Would it have grown that much without the pandemic is a very good question, and one we won't be able to answer. We can always assume. But why is that? I mean, the strategy has always been there. 4 years ago, we were talking about the new data off our watches. If we look at life, especially underwriting, all the rapid things you can do now and where you can go. Back then, we talked about improving the customer experience already. Amazon was leading the way with how we interact on retail businesses. And we need to address that. And we've been telling you this for years. But pre-COVID, we weren't doing a lot about it. We were doing underwriting the same way we'd been doing for 20 years. Now, there were some exceptions. There were some leaders that actually came out and said, okay, I've got to take this, I've got to bite this by the bullet, and we've got to get on with it. But a lot of them didn't, okay? And it made it really, really tough. You know, even back then, we had a best-of-breed concept where you would build an on-prem solution. I did it, I think, 18 years ago. I did an implementation in the UK of a policy admin system, and they took a true best-of-breed. They went and brought the best of everything, hooked it all up in an on-prem ecosystem at tremendous cost. It was a great system, very expensive. But that was the start of it. And that's what cloud is, okay? It's the best. It gives you the opportunity, much cheaper, quicker, and easier to build the best of breed. It's about connecting. Even the buzzword digital transformation was around 3 years ago. But now, it's not something we buzz about, it's something we're actually doing, or if we're not doing, we should be doing. So pre-COVID to today, it was all there, we just never capitalized on it. And it's a little unfortunate that it takes such a disaster to make us move along. What we did do, and what helped us as a product, is a number of years ago, we created ALIP as a product. And we said, this is now, instead of having the traditional, where you have a vendor, they sell a solution to a carrier, and then that carrier runs in a customized version for eternity. And that's the way a lot of vendors still work today. 7 years ago, we created the concept of a product, where we brought everybody together, we called it a community, and you're all going to be on the same source. Now, we're not original. Salesforce has been doing it for years. SAP, SAS, it's not an original idea. It is an original idea in life and annuity insurance business. With that product, it's got a lot of pros. Everybody's working in a community. They're working together. We got coalition concepts of development, is mutual investment and product benefit, etc. But the cons is we can only move as fast as our clients. So it's taken us from 7 years ago to where we are today. 5 years ago, we got our first cloud client. And it took a long time to get that, purely because it was so hard to get the first client there. The pandemic, it was like a dam bursting. It flipped the switch big time. And we're full up, we're running parallel, multiple projects, trying to get them up into the cloud. And the clients that weren't on the product now want to jump into the product roadmap and get on board so they can stay there. And if you look at the spend here, so if you look at leaders, when they saw the pandemic, they saw it as an opportunity, not a disruption. And that's a mindset, and that should happen all along. And if you look here, the leaders, they could spend the money. They could spend it because they'd created the foundation. They were already well into their strategy. Even if they hadn't physically done it, they knew exactly what they were going to do. So they could expedite it very well. For those that aren't in the cloud, there's 3 things we need to consider. Obviously, we need to evaluate. There's a few things under evaluate. Obviously, everybody looks at cost. This one bugs me, because I see it all the time. I see they look at their run cost for their on-premise for the operating year, and then they look at their run cost for IT, plus the implementation, and it doesn't balance. But if you were to look at the last 10 years spread, and if you're a big company, you've probably got a disaster recovery, you've gone and got a separate building to your production environment, you've replicated that, and every 3 years, those environments become obsolete or you pay excessive on your maintenance contracts. So it's a huge spend over time. With the cloud, you don't need disaster recovery. In fact, I would argue you probably didn't need it back then. It's not as though you're making $1 million payment, and if the building goes out, if there's a bomb goes off, there's going to be a lot more, because if you look at the consistency and the reliability of these cloud platforms, it's amazing. With HAZ, 2 buildings, both working together and sharing the processing, it's really easy, okay? So it is a fundamental difference between the two. You must understand the total cost, because the total cost also got to consider the strategy. Which way can my company bend? Don't look at the short term, look at the long term. When things like the pandemic hit, can I bend left? Can I bend right? Can I handle this? If the market's changed, can I adapt? We go back to the connecting world. I mean, you shouldn't be building. I know one carrier I don't work with, but I'm very aware of it in my position. They still build in-house. And for the love of me, I can't understand it. It's not a build world, it's a connecting world. It's a best-of-breed connecting world made very easy in the cloud, because I can go, yeah, I'll take you, I can take you. And you know what? We've got an InsurTech, we've got FinTech, we've got lots of little dedicated applications that work up in the cloud that we can tap into if we want to plug a gap. And the best thing is, if that becomes obsolete or the market changes, we can switch it out for another one. Now, to do that, you've got to have a very flexible policy admin system. I get that. It's just got to be able to communicate well. But once you establish that, it's very easy. Other areas we need to consider, revenue. We've actually seen in our studies that the revenue growth is risen through the pandemic for clients who are on a PaaS or a SaaS model. Customers, we talked about the customer experience and how it's all changing, especially in the younger generation. We need to keep our existing ones, and we need to attract the new ones, and that's the younger ones coming up now, starting to look at life insurance as they get to that point in their lives. We're going to face it with annuity soon, but right now it's about the young people buying life insurance as they buy their first house, they have their first kids, the model's kicked off, and they expect to do it a lot different. The workforce. Up in the cloud, we could run a workforce analytics. We can understand the hardships that might be incorporated within our staff and help with the retention on that. Okay, and it's not only just on the retention of the staff. Graduates today, and I'm sure you're aware, they come out of college and they're looking much more than the salary and where you're located. They're looking at you as a company, as a carrier, to say, do you support the community? Are you sponsoring anybody? What's your beliefs? What do you like, what do you not like? And the easiest way to do that in your evaluation is, let's make the cloud green. AWS is a leader in green cloud. Easy tick in the box when you go through that evaluation process. There's a bubble. Any move, you're going to create a big cost up front. You could offset that with SaaS, but it can be intimidating. We do need to think about it a lot. Upside, costs in cloud are decreasing. Price goes down as it becomes more of it, and it's easier and more adaptable. And on the upside as well, you get, like AWS, they're working very hard to consistently restructure and develop the pricing model, which makes it a lot easier for the consumers to adopt and step into it. Financials, your accountant will work out that out, your CFO. Do you put an upfront capital? Do you have operate on operating? Do you want to own the assets? Do you not want to own the assets? They'll guide you then, make that part of your process when you do your evaluation. Guardian did it best, okay? For their company, they really nailed it. From the expenditure, they looked at the smart capitalization, the depreciation on their assets. They looked at it long term. They didn't look at the short term and just look at the cost. They looked at the long term. So where's the business going? I'm now a connecting world. I don't know where it's going to be in 5 years. I might have a pandemic or something equivalent that makes significant impact. I want to be able to flex right, flex left, go whichever direction I want and continue my growth. They picked AWS. They picked Accenture and the ALIP, and they looked at industry standard out the box. I don't want to build, I want to connect. Plugged them up, and I'll let Tay just give you the details around that. But it was great. I mean, it was impressive. I got to sit back and watch a lot of that, and it was pretty neat. So, moving forward, the other way of doing it is cloudifying. I don't know if you're familiar with cloudifying. It's a concept of taking an older system and putting it up into the cloud. Obviously, it's hard to do with like a mainframe or something, but if you've got a server-based system that's not the latest and greatest, but you've got to get off-prem and you've got to get up into the cloud, you can do it, and we support a lot of clients that actually do that. Doesn't have longevity, it won't answer all your problems, but it might solve a short-term one. In fact, the good story is ALIP, our market-leading policy admin system, started as that. So 7 years ago, we created the product. 5 years ago, we moved it to the cloud and had our first cloud client. It was what I would call cloudified, and I'm not embarrassed, okay? Remember, we're a product, we have a large customer base. I can't leave them behind. I can't go and build a completely new system and say, right, it's gonna cost you 10 million to get into that. Life doesn't work that way, okay? So we dragged them along, sometimes kicking and screaming, sometimes not, but it was a good journey. And 5 years ago we started, we were in VMware. Today, ALIP, we kept investing, kept modifying, doing it in such a way that our clients are upgrading once a year, twice a year, 3-4 times a year, depending on the aggressiveness of the client. They're gonna be quick, easy, and low cost. But we've moved them to an environment now where our clients are in containers, they're using native services. We can even run serverless. So there's a lot of value in that. And serverless leads to auto-scaling, containers leads to evergreen, and that's the world we need to get to. So it's been a really interesting journey. And there's lots of options. So in this short introduction of Accenture, all I'm trying to do is make you aware of some of the things that we can think about, and there's more than one way to do something. Now I'd like to hand over to Tejas, who Chief Architect on the program, and thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to talk about our transformation over the last 6 years, but specifically over the last 4 years. Our strategy has been around, when we're selecting to host our business applications, is around industry agnostic. So, HRS system, marketing, sales, finance. We'll go to managed service providers where it makes sense. If it's industry specific, where, if a claim system, payment system, or even cloud, we will go to, best of breed. And then where it's differentiating for our customers, right? Where are we bringing the most value, the most impact? We will build and maintain and run. Over the last 4 years, the key focus is talent, technology, and process. And we realized early on that in order for us to be competitive, both short and long term, managing traditional infrastructures, data centers, was not in our business. The scale and speed at where AI, APIs, distributed architectures, data was going, we just couldn't scale at that level. And so in 2015, we actually put our first public-facing production application in AWS. We took a leap of faith, we put it out there, and in 2016, we worked on securing our AWS environment for any type of workload at Guardian. And then we started our journey in 17 with another leap of faith. We moved our data lake to AWS. We're probably one of the first to do it in this industry, and we took a lot of risk, but we saw tremendous benefits, and we're seeing it today in terms of a lot of value for our clients. We also shifted in how we operated from a delivery of our business. We introduced SAFe, Scalable Agile Framework, and focused around, again, business value and business delivery, built agile release trains. In 18, we continued now on the focus of, moving apps and building apps in AWS. We built an internal system called Launchpad for our developers. And the goal was here for them is to get business and product out the door as fast as possible. It used to take us days, and now it takes us weeks. Launchpad is built for developers, for the developer, and it provisions environments in AWS with the right levels of controls, the right level of code that we need them to run. We also started to focus on upskilling and reskilling our talent. That was a big focus for us. We realized that our talent was how we're going to get there. So it created internal training, external training, partnered with a lot of firms, including AWS, to say, how can we keep upskilling our talent? In 2019, we realized that introducing a function like DevOps was critical. And we started moving and shifting our organization into DevOps culture, DevOps mindset. By then, 75% of our organization was data and cloud aware, and either being trained, certified, or ready to build applications in the cloud. By 2020, we were in a pace of 70% of our workloads were in a managed service or cloud. And we also then introduced Guardian Connect, which is a key enabler for us to what you heard from Kim earlier. It's the middle platform that can connect both our internal systems to front-end systems to partner systems. We realized that for Guardian to scale, we would have to connect to startups as well as benefit admin providers. And Connect is going to be that glue for the future or how we're going to move forward. By 2020, by the end of actually this year, we will be 85% in a cloud or a managed service provider. And we're also now shifting our organizational delivery model to be a value stream, value chain type of organization. Building on our strategy, these are our 6 pillars of how we manage our work for Guardian. So cultivate is around our people, how we operate, how we provide them the facilities to collaborate. Connect is how do we provide digital systems and access our customers. Innovate is something that we do on a daily basis. It could be innovating from a product perspective, like introducing ALIP at Guardian, or innovating some business processes. Digitizing is the automation of business processes from end to end, using RPA or any type of API type of connectivity. Decide is around making business decisions and data-driven discussions happening more and more. So it's beyond just building a lake or running machine learning or AI systems. It's actually making business decisions. And then finally, trust is both for our employees and our customers. How do we ensure that as we're moving in the direction of cloud and managed service, that our employees can work in a safe area as well as our customer information is secure? And we measure those by ensuring, from a customer perspective, we're providing a value, increasing our revenue, as well as managing our risk. That is one thing we keep top of mind. For our industry, risk is both from a product perspective, but also from a company perspective. We take it seriously. And then Kim talked about reducing costs. I think it's more around managing cost is what we focus on. And that's a big area for us too. I'm going to hand it off to Nick, who's going to talk about the ALIP transformation.
So how does this come all together? So Kim talked about the ALIP platform and where Accenture is going. Tejas talked about the architecture and a grander scheme of what Guardian did to put together. So some of the things we used to stand up ALIP, we used the Launchpad. We stood the environment up in, you meant to say days, not weeks, Tejas. You said weeks, not days. We stood it up in days. We were able to get all of our UAT environments, our dev environments, and our production environments up and running. We stayed to standards. On the ALIP platform, we challenged anything we were doing to make sure we could stay out of the box and standard with ALIP. Same with the cloud. We used cloud native technology. We didn't introduce, we had our standards and we stuck to it. It all culminates to, for those of you that might be in insurance, you know how hard it is with mainframes and some of the legacy systems that we have. Products take months, quarters, years to get out. Product innovation is difficult because you're building in there. So what are we looking for ALIP and what are we proving with ALIP? It's taken the delivery time from, we did about 3 years of product innovation in a little under 6 months on the ALIP platform. Stood up our core whole life policy, all of its riders, all the taxation, all the dividend calculations. 6 months. I sat on a demonstration the other morning of my own team who were trained for about a week by the ALIP folks doing the configuration of the next set of products all by themselves. Price changes in 20 minutes versus today somewhere between 2 and 3 months to do a price change on a whole life policy. Right? So you're looking at better time to market. You're looking at the ability to change. For those of you in the life insurance industry, the 7702 regulation was a pretty big deal for us this year. We had to reprice our entire permanent life insurance portfolio. It took us all year to do that on our mainframes. We did it in less than a month on the ALIP platform in a test environment. So we're proving that out. Tejas talked about innovation. Guardian's really pushing product innovation. We've had features on our disability products that have been sat on the shelf because we couldn't build them in the systems. They're easily configurable within the ALIP platform. Testing. Most of the testing done on the systems today are manual run. Aging policies is extremely difficult, so if you have to test something that in year 1 versus year 5 versus year 20, doing that aging on a mainframe is a significant amount of effort. Again, I watched them age a policy by decades in minutes on the ALIP platform. So at the end of the day, what the infrastructure at Guardian put together on the Amazon cloud and what ALIP brought to the table, we will be moving all of our new business for all of our individual markets. And we will complete all this work by the end of 2023. I've tried this before at a different company. It took us 5 years to move just the annuity block, right? So I was at AXA. Vendor will be nameless, right? But it took us about 5 years to move our annuity, just our variable annuity block onto the platform off of the old platform. We have a track to go in 3 years for 4 product lines, vastly different. Whole life, term, disability, variable annuity, and fixed annuity. Across the board. So, and we will convert. We're looking at conversion strategies for our annuity block and for our disability block. We'll actually shut those down. We're going to quarterize the old systems, so no new business will be going on the old mainframes for our life insurance block of business. So like I said, the partnership between Guardian, Amazon, and Accenture has really enabled our company to move quickly, to deliver product innovation to our customers, and to be able to move quick. We already have my business leader saying, hey, if I got to change price again by the first quarter, are we going to be ready? And the answer is yes. We'll be able to change the price within a month and be able to respond to price sensitivity, capital requirements. Being housed in New York, capital requirements are pretty high for a life insurance company, or even just capital gains, operating income. So with that, I want to thank you all for attending. I want to thank Tejas and Kim for joining me on the stage today. I want to thank Amazon and the rest of the Accenture team for kind of allowing us to be hosted here. And we'll open it up for questions. Yes?
I love what you've done with all the data infrastructure. How did that then translate
Yeah, so the question was, how are we going to get from where we are now to transform our digital transformation? So I'll answer it two ways. So Tej just talked about Guardian Connect. Today, again, if you're in the life insurance industry, you know getting information out to a digital portal for self-service is really difficult. With the ALIP platform, there's predefined APIs that we could put through Guardian Connect and recreate that digital front end. I'll give you a very simple example. Just getting people's name, address, phone number, and emails out of that mainframe, which is in a blob, right? It's all one coagulated piece, into an actual data architecture that's being called through APIs. So we're not there yet, but this is the platform that will allow us to move down the path of self-service, and I think Kim talked about it as well. The next generation of people buying this stuff will not accept our laziness, our inability to underwrite. It's not going to happen. Our product innovation, right? You think about what Ladder's done. Very impressive product they have there where you can ladder up and ladder down, right? They chose to build their own admin platform so that they could do that. But life changes, and you want the products to change with them. Today, the systems we have, it's not possible. So this will start to drive the digital journey and start to drive the purchasing, it'll start to drive servicing, and it'll allow us to open up a whole new set of capabilities for our customers in the digital space. So as this stands up now, we have another roadmap on the other side, which we're calling web and mobile modernization, which will marry nicely with this. So this was the first step. Now the digital transformation can start, right? We've got it out there, but it's nowhere where it needs to be. Is that helpful? Thanks. Any other questions? All right, it's clearly the end of the day. Oh, there you go. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, so we kind of took two strategies there. Number one, I couldn't sell my business partners on moving everything. Oh, sorry. The question was, the last bullet point says moving all legacy systems onto the new platform. Two-part strategy. On our younger blocks of business, which is our annuity block and our disability block, we are fully converting off of the mainframe and the Transcend platform that we use there. So we're going to start by putting all new business on and then convert in large blocks and be off of those two systems. From the life insurance, being that the oldest policy on the system was issued in 1934, we didn't want to go near it. I don't think anyone actually knows what's happening with that 1934 issued policy. So we said, all right, we'll start with new business on the new platform, and I said quarterize all those three. So of the 5 platforms we're moving off of, we're completely shutting down 2, quarterizing 3, so no new business will go on. And it's a horrible thing to say, but the systems will start to die. Ironically, in the life insurance business, that's not nice to say, but if we have success, we might start to look at decades of blocks to migrate. So for example, if you look at from 1990 forward to now, it's about 80% of our block sits there. We could go 1 decade at a time back and convert, but that's a different strategy. So really moving the new business makes it go a lot faster. It's the conversions that kill careers and kill these projects. So we're trying to stay as far from that as possible for our core stuff. Thank you. Yes? What was our biggest challenge is the question. Believe it or not, I'm surprised how well the work is going right now, and I said this to the Accenture team. I'm amazed, having done this once before at a different company, how quickly this is happening, how fluid the system is, and how much is modularized and configurable. I think we're still at 99.9% configuration and not code. So what I thought was going to be my biggest challenge, actually building this thing, was not. The biggest challenge was getting the buy-in from the business. To the gentleman's point over here, this is a very difficult decision to make. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars, really long roadmaps that have traditionally failed. So getting the strategy in place, selling the business on the roadmap, and putting the $45 million investment in place turned out to be the harder thing than building. And I think it's because of where we were. All the right pieces were in place. Did I do that? All the right pieces were in place, right? The Amazon cloud at Guardian was ahead of it. ALIP, ability to be on the cloud and move quickly, was ahead of it. So the timing was right for us to introduce this in 2020. Any earlier, right? I think this is the other way around. It's the difficulty of building, it's the configuration versus coding. So I think we had all the right puzzle pieces in place to take this on. And I will say, I don't like saying it because I did play sports and I'm a little bit superstitious. It's going really, really well. I think it's because of the foundational elements are in place. Yes? So I'll give that credit to Tejas, the architect on the team. So the ALIB platform is a standard in the industry. So what it gives you the capability of doing is standard. Right, I'm sorry, the question. Can we differentiate ourselves if we're using, I think what you said was, how are we going to differentiate ourselves if we're using an industry standard platform, an industry leading platform like ALIB? I think most of the big four mutuals are at least partially or somewhat all on it, right? So it's a great question. I think it gives us, again, the foundational tools to then create the differentiation, the digital journey. So just having ALIP won't create that capability on the front end. But when you think about what a life insurance company needs to become, right? We have a ton of information about our customers. We judge your mortality, we judge your morbidity, and we leave it at that. A system like this and a digital journey needs to continue that engagement to say, I know your mortality, here's things you could look at, here's some recommendations to give. All this back-end work starts to enable Guardian to create that differentiating membership well-being type experience that these other anchor systems wouldn't allow us to do. Right now we have a middleware data sitting in the middle that runs on a nightly batch. Again, think of another industry in your lives where if you tell me you want my product, I'll tell you in 45 days whether I'll let you have it and how much I'll charge you. That's where we're at. It's unacceptable. So we actually just launched our first instant issue on October 2nd. So Guardian, the old stodgy mutual company, started in 1860. Now you can go on to our website, you can go on to our application, and if you answer the questions correctly, if your MIB, your RX scans, your MVR all come back clear, we can issue a policy to you within 30 minutes. And we're just beginning. That's what this starts to enable. Yes? So Tejas talked about it. On the IM side, we are moving a lot of our mainframe data into the data lake for analytic purposes, right? But from an operational perspective, today in the individual market space, we created an old school ILDR, a data repository, in between the front-end digital systems and the mainframe so you don't have to rely on them. So we haven't moved out for operational purposes, but we have moved the data into the cloud, into the data lake for analytics. Sorry, the question was, I think it's pretty clear what the question was. Yep. Anybody else? Did you see one? Oh, sorry, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. GuardianDirect.com launched in 2018. And we put out our dental product, vision, critical illness, accident, partnered with a pet insurance company and a vision company. So we haven't moved our core there yet, but we absolutely believe not only will we need to go B2C, we will need to be on multiple distribution platforms where product rules defined within APIs versus an SDK is going to become the most important. If you've ever talked to a startup company that's in a distribution manner, they will not talk to you if you can't offer them an API capability for the product rules for them to insert. They want to own that journey. So whether it be our own digital journey for a sales process or multiple distributors like a Newbie Box or Policy Genius, right? They want these types of integrations. Today, it's a struggle. As we continue down these back-end roadmaps, it will become easier and easier and easier. Any questions for Kim or Tejas? I'm just waiting for a technical question that I can't answer. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.